What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Just Your Boy Podcast. My name's Steven Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, I think I'm going to need a miracle here. I don't know if you've been looking at our work league playoffs.
I have not. Let's see here. Yes, you are going to lose.
Says the projections, but if a couple people just happen to not suit up, I feel like I might have a chance.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, boy. Yeah, Noah Fant gotcha, huh?
Yeah, Noah Fant with the 0 didn't help. Travis Homer, not so much either.
Yeah, despite
Tannehill
like
ended up
30
being a
carries
good
or something.
streamer. Yeah, right. He touched the ball a ton. Alas, we know what he is, and we know he's probably, best utilized as a satellite back to a couple of the studs they have there in Seattle.
Yep, 100%.
But yeah, up 14 points, and my opponent has 3 players, one being a kicker, but the other being one Ramondre Stevenson and Hollywood Brown. So just be sitting there watching the points chip away and maybe get to the second half with a lead, but probably not.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. That's a shame.
Yeah, well, it will be the first league I'm eliminated from playoff-wise, so we're doing pretty well across the board other than that.
Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain, right?
Yeah, but speaking of that here, we are getting ready for fantasy football playoffs with some waivers here.
Yeah. Very important part of the process, right?
Yes, very important.
Didn't have we did have a few big injuries this week. Debo obviously went down for maybe through the end of the regular season.
I think I just saw an article actually that they said it's not as bad as people thought. It was just a sprained knee and ankle.
Okay.
But should be expected to return during the season, not even postseason.
Okay, there you go.
So I guess it's more of a benefit for the Niners because, in all likelihood, you only have 2 to 3 weeks left of your fantasy football season, and one would imagine he misses at least one of those, if not more.
Yeah, very fair. Damian Pierce, Jeff Wilson, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, bunch of quarterbacks, Huntley, Wilson, Mike White. 49ers quarterback is also hurt.
Another one.
Yeah, they'll see.
They call you up to see if you wanted to come in and toss the pigskin around.
Yeah, apparently.
Do some open tryouts.
They said if the game was more out of hand, he could have come back. But it's a short week. They play on Thursday, so I don't think that.
Yeah, big game against Seattle too. I mean, that could be basically locking up the division pretty much if they win that one.
Yeah. So we'll see on that front. Not sure if that's too big of a deal from a fantasy perspective, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the running backs here. Chuba Hubbard, rostered in 33% of leagues. Foreman is out touching him, but all the Panthers are doing is running the ball. So both of them are being used and being productive for fantasy. So he's got to be a pretty good pickup, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprisingly dominating win. I think the score maybe misleads a little because Seattle got a late touchdown, but I mean, they were up by 2 scores, maybe even more than that there in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, obviously, I don't know that you can predict that to continue, but going up against Pittsburgh next, I think a better defense than people imagine, but we'll see what happens with Kenny Pickett. We have Mitch Trubisky, obviously, as an option there with, if he's out injury-wise, and that could affect how the defense plays if the offense can't get it going. Another injury that, someone didn't get hurt this week, but news just came out today was Deontay Johnson done for the year officially. So that just kind of weakens the Pittsburgh offense and maybe makes the Carolina offense a little bit more appealing with a guy like Hubbard. 33% rostered. Any interest there, Steve?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's kind of hard to find a running back, especially now, this late in the season that's going to produce for you. So he's got to be pretty high up on the list of guys I want. Maybe second to Mr. Knight here. I mean, that's not fair. We got Dobbins on the list, but he's rostered in 70% of leagues. So
Yeah, I
that's kind
added
of
to
a
him and
check.
McKinnon both in there just as like a hey, take a look because McKinnon clearly is involved. I mean, he had 9 targets, and it could be a blowout win against Houston. And Dobbins 70% rostered, but clearly looks like he is back to speed there this week. And I would imagine 70% is probably pretty low for J.K. Dobbins. So that means 3 out of 10 people listening is going to be available in your league.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. I think he, would be rest of your waivers if he's out there in any leagues
Yeah.
or
So
rest of your fab.
obviously he tops the list.
Mm-hmm.
And Knight, he's crossed the 50% mark, but still at 55%. So still close to 50-50. He would be probably the top of the list. I'd put him above Chuba just because Chuba is saving time and Foreman is the guy. He's out touching him. So if they were if they were in a position where they had to throw more and dial back the rushing, I think it would be Foreman. So I think Knight would top the list, but yeah, Chuba's definitely up there. What do you think of the two of them?
Yeah, I think it's definitely Knight. He looks to be, at the squarely in a 1A, 1B, and probably the 1A at this point to Michael Carter. We had James Robinson, healthy scratch there. I know he himself isn't happy about it and has been pretty vocal, but they clearly have a guy that they like there and Xavier Knight and Zonovan Knight. And I think he, is someone they're going to look at to use even next year. So we could see what that means for Brees Hall, too. But I think he's the priority ad here this week against Detroit. A really good matchup. I think that's a really good matchup for both teams too, because both teams really need to win to stay in the playoff hunt in their respective conferences. So I think Xavier Knight's the big one. Mason, San Francisco, I think he, 11 carries, I believe, 50 some yards. So clearly can get it done with some limited work. And I think he is a guy that I would definitely want to stash. Definitely if you have CMC, but even if you don't have CMC, I think he's a good stash to have because if CMC goes down, he looks like he would get all the work there in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, 100%. He's a clear cut backup at this point, I think. So yeah, he's a really strong handcuff, especially if CMC goes down, like you said. Another handcuff with some potential would be Khalil Herbert. I think they're expecting him back soon, right?
Yeah, looks like he is expected to be activated this week. So that's another just kind of keep an eye out if you're looking for some depth for the playoffs run here. He's a guy I would add. Not a great matchup against the Eagles this week, but maybe they slowly work him back in. And if you can get to the next round and you don't necessarily need to use him this week, I think he's definitely a guy that you could be beneficial for you in the weeks to come.
Absolutely perfect. Moving on, wide receivers here. We'll start with a super flyer here. T.Y. Hilton was signed by the Cowboys today. I would assume that officially puts an end to the OBJ stuff. I mean, that conversation's gone downhill really quickly, and I'm assuming if they were thinking they were going to sign him, they would not be signing T.Y. Hilton. Is somehow he's 1% rostered?
Yeah, somebody has him out there.
Yeah, I guess enough people went and grabbed him maybe off of today's news.
Yeah.
But that's
or
super flyer.
A couple leagues that people haven't been paying attention to. He's just still sitting on a roster.
Yeah. So keep a lookout for him, I guess. Johan Dotson didn't play this week, only rostered in 50% of leagues, so it might be a good week to scoop him up given he didn't play, right?
Yeah, that one was surprising. He's only 50% rostered, and he's available right now. I mean, once that last game is up, I assume everyone goes to waivers, but he's currently available in most leagues now because he had the bye. So he's someone I think you want to roster, possibly flex consideration. Probably wouldn't be thrilled, but he's definitely worked in there. So not the best flex consideration, but solid flex consideration, I think, for me. What about you?
Yeah, the same, I think. Solid. We'll just kind of go with whatever the offense does. I don't think he's not someone yet that's going to have a good game, even if Washington does bad. But if they're competitive, he should be fine. And we saw in the beginning of the year, he could score touchdowns. Granted, the team then was under Wentz and quite different than the team now. But 40 yards and a touchdown's enough. In the same kind of boat, DJ Chark was next on the list, 40% rostered. He's had 2 good weeks in a row, and if you go 3 weeks back, it wasn't terrible either. as the Lions trend upwards, I think that's a good thing from him. But I think he's
Mhm.
kind of the same in like a boom bust kind of category, especially with
With Jameson Williams back, I think that
yeah,
really hurts him.
yeah, definitely. The Shark's talented. He'll still pop off some games, I'd imagine, but probably inconsistent as well, right?
Yeah, and they're scoring points, so I mean, someone's going to get it. It's Amon Ra had a little bit of a down game, but you imagine he'll be a little more consistent, and you'll have some other guys that are a little bit more, inconsistent with having some boom games like Jameson Williams, DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds. I think scored as well. So yeah, they go all around pretty solid option. But you're probably not going to be thrilled about playing him. He's a guy you're throwing in there and kind of shooting for the moon.
Okay, here another moonshot. I don't know if you're taking the gamble on here, but Marquise Goodwin had himself a good week. Only rostered in 2% of leagues, but he is got to be the least trustworthy on the list. While Hilton's on the list, can't trust
Yeah,
him, and Chris
yeah.
Moore's on the list. You can't trust him either. So we'll put them together because
Yeah, Chris
Moore.
Moore actually had 11 targets though,
That's
so he's
crazy.
someone I'd be a little more interested in only with Brandon Cooks out. He's someone that I think, if you have a deeper bench and you can kind of throw him on the back there, he could be someone if you get closer to the start of the games that you could pop in there if we see the Brandon Cooks out again. Not thrilled
Nico
about it,
Collins is
but
out
the
too, right?
volume's there. I believe so, at least this week. I'm not sure if he'll
Yeah,
be out going forward.
another name to keep an eye on. And then the quarterback carousel in Houston. That's some weird stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to. And I didn't see did his receptions come from one person in particular?
I believe it was somewhat spread out because I think they had was there 3 quarterbacks? Did I see a Driscoll in there as
Oh
well?
yeah, Driscoll's in. I don't know if he actually. I think
I saw he was quarterback slash tight end
he was running a lot.
eligibility.
That's what I saw earlier. He was running a lot. Let me see if he actually did anything. He threw 6 passes. One of which was a touchdown, but then he also had 7
Okay.
carries. So they're using him.
Wow.
Yeah, which is I didn't know he was, like a runner like that. I guess.
Is this the same Driscoll from Detroit?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I do recall him scrambling a little more than the average quarterback.
Did
Let's
he?
say
Okay. Yeah. It's the same Driscoll from Detroit.
the very same.
Yeah. Maybe keep an eye. Maybe you could slide him into your tight end spot.
Yeah. Especially
Maybe I
if
should
we
have been
think
rolling
he's going
him
to
instead of
continue
Kyle
to use.
Pitts.
Yeah, had you have known, and obviously, don't think he did that earlier in the year,
No,
but
not at all. Zeros across the
you
board.
never know. I mean, he probably would have got you the same number of points in Kyle Pitts in a
Pretty
few
close.
weeks.
Pretty close.
Yeah,
Yeah. Not a big difference between 0 and 4.
unfortunately not.
um, so anyway, moving off of those two, Zay Jones had himself a good week. Continues to kind of be back and forth, but I think I trust him more than I would Dotson and Chark. Would you agree with that?
I think so. I don't know, he's scary, but he clearly is being utilized. Double-digit points here and half scoring in 3 of 4 games with the bye sandwich in there as well. So you love to see 12 targets, 8 catches, 77 yards catch. Dallas is going to be a tough matchup. You got the Jets and Houston after that, which are just statistically not great receiver matchups. So I think he's probably a better ad than most of these guys. Dotson, maybe talent alone can put Dotson up there above him, but I think they're probably your top 2 options that if you had to play one, those would be the guys I'd be looking at on this list so far.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. I think that makes sense. And at this point, if one of them's gonna go nuclear the rest of the week, it'd be Dotson, right? As the young guy that can to break out.
You'd think.
Probably better of all of them, Peoples Jones.
Still under 60% rostered here.
Yeah, and you're looking double digits from a fantasy perspective, 5 of the last 6 weeks. And that 1 week was pretty bad. 2 3 points. But even prior to that, 8, 9, 7, 10. I mean, he's been pretty good. So even with the quarterback change and Watson not being good, he has still been good for fantasy. Like you said, 58% rostered, so he's out there a lot less than anyone else, but still out there for 4 of 10 of you will have him available.
Yeah, definitely someone that I think you want to prioritize adding if you can. He's being used, him and Amari Cooper are both being used a good bit there by Watson. And Watson put up, I think, 275 yards, so much more respectable line this week. And, going up against Baltimore, divisional matchup, but I think they're going to be able to at least be a competent offense, and he's going to be one of the key pieces in the passing game.
Yeah. Another, maybe you call him a key piece, Elijah Moore. Definitely having a better time. He's in press conferences joking around and stuff. Got 10 targets this week.
Just 60 yards on 6 catches is solid.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And Corey Davis got hurt. I think that's probably your key takeaway there.
That helps, and Mike White continues to be the quarterback, always a good thing. But he's also got Detroit next week, Jacksonville the week after, Seattle. So not a bad lineup here as well. So he kind of falls in the middle as far as this group goes, right? Like I'm not sure what his upside is, but we've seen some good stuff from him before.
Yeah, I think he is someone, probably below the Dotson and Zay Jones line. So, but he'd be someone not unlike Chris Moore, above Goodwin, above Hilton, that, you kind of add and stash, probably not thrilled to play him like Chris Moore, but, a desperation, you could put him in there because he could have, the volume that he had here, 10 targets, and he's a guy that can break a big touchdown. We've seen the explosiveness from him. So the schedule gets a lot better for the Jets here. They got Detroit this week, so good matchup. And obviously it looks like Garrett Wilson is the alpha there, but I think Elijah Moore could be in line if we see Corey Davis out for a good bit more targets.
Yep. Moving to tight ends here. Evan Ingram on our list every week, 56% rostered. Went nuclear this week.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That was something else. So I'm sure his roster percentage is going to go up after that. But I don't think we could say anything more than we've been saying all year. He's kind of just been a steady guy. This is really his first real big pop off. He's had a couple double digit games, but 11 points, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more to say that we haven't said all year long, right?
Yeah. It was nice knowing you. We're not going to be able to talk about you next week. I imagine
probably not.
We'll be well over 60%.
Yeah, probably.
Interesting. This next guy, see if he is going to have a big jump from his current 14% rostership to maybe over 60%.
Yeah. Do you know how to pronounce his name?
Last name is Okonkwo. I don't know his first name.
That is good enough for me.
Yeah.
Has had a really good week this week. 45 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. The week prior, not super great, but 5 targets for 68 yards. I mean, that's a good. That's good for a tight end. Tight end needs passing.
Continually increasing too. I mean, he didn't really do much early in the year. I think he had 1 touchdown, first half of the year. But week 9, 3 targets. Week 10, 2 targets. Week 11, 5, 6. So you like to see it increasing, and clearly he's a guy they want to utilize. They're definitely getting him involved a lot more.
Yep, 100%. I agree. And then Ty Conklin, another guy that we've talked about a fair bit this year. Didn't have the best fantasy day, but did get 8 targets this week, 7 targets the week before. He's got a 10 a few weeks back as well. So just soaking up a lot of targets, which is what you want to see in a tight end, right?
Yeah, and at this stage, you're not going to find, your Travis Kelce's out there. So you need to get the guys, either you're looking at touchdown upside and boom or bust on touchdown, or a guy that, has a chance to push for, 8+ targets in a week. And we see that, fairly consistently with Conklin here. So back-to-back weeks at 7 or more targets. I think he's a guy that if you're desperate, you can throw him in there on the stream in what looks to be maybe a high-scoring game against Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move over to the streaming side of things here. We'll start with our quarterbacks. We got Mike White, 20% rostered versus Detroit. Daniel Jones, 55% at Washington. Heineke, 11% versus the Giants. And Mac Jones, 18% at Vegas. Who do you want?
Yeah, if Mike White's healthy, I think Mike White's the guy. But Matt Jones against Vegas is tempting. It's scary, but tempting. What about you?
I'm with you. I think I would go with Mike White if he's available. Mac Jones is kind of tempting. I think I'd rather go with Daniel Jones. He seems like he's got a better floor than Mac
Mhm.
does. It could be a good week for Mac given the matchup. He's shown some upside this year, but Daniel Jones is far more consistent. So I think I'd go with him. In fact, I think I'd probably go Daniel Jones over Mike White too. Um, for as much success as the Jets are having, like last week against Minnesota, he only got 17 points. This week he missed some time, but he still only ended up with 11. Um, so yeah, I'll probably go with Daniel Jones, I guess, in all scenarios.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I do think that's good, an interesting. I think it's Sunday Night Football, the Washington versus Giants matchup. So could be a pretty interesting heads up matchup there. I still think if Mike White's healthy, he's my guy there. But yeah, the rushing upside of Daniel Jones is definitely appealing, and you got some good baseline.
Yes, sir. Move on to the defensive matchups here. Got a few of them. Packers versus the Rams, Steelers at Carolina, Panthers versus Pittsburgh, the Browns versus Baltimore, Commanders versus the Giants, and the Cardinals at Denver. Who are you interested in there?
Yeah, this one is interesting. It's really no elite defenses. Like the mastership available. The Packers looked to be a really good matchup, little under a week ago, but with superstar Baker Mayfield in tow in LA, I don't know it's as appealing there. They'll still think it's probably from a roster standpoint one of the top ones. I do still like the Steelers, 53% rostered, so you're probably not going to be able to jump out and get them. But I do think Carolina, maybe outkick their coverage a little bit. They're playing much better under the new interim coach, but I don't know that they're going to be able to do that to Pittsburgh. Granted, it is at home, so that could be a big benefit here for the Panthers. But I think Pittsburgh's probably the one. The other one, maybe the Browns or the Cardinals, really just because quarterback injuries. Russell Wilson, Tyler Huntley, and Lamar Jackson, I guess you'd throw in there. Is all competent quarterbacks, even if they're not having the best years. But if they're out and the offenses are struggling with a second or third string quarterback, Browns and Cardinals defense looks a little more appealing.
Yeah, the Browns are actually my option here. Huntley's in concussion protocol. Lamar's not coming back. Who's their third strings? Anthony Brown, I think.
Think so, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'll take a pretty good defense against a third string quarterback. You do need to be mindful. That's a Saturday game. We got 3 Saturday games this week. I don't know
Saturday
why.
games. Yep.
Yeah,
Because college football is off, and the NFL said, you know what? Saturday is ours
there
when
you
college
go.
football is no longer gone.
Yeah, get those ratings, I guess.
That
makes sense. So yeah, I think I'd go with the Browns. But I'm with you. Like I'm good with the Steelers. I'd be good with the Packers this week. I think. Commanders coming off a bye could be solid too. But yeah, Browns would be my pick.
All right. Well, everyone, make sure you keep an eye out on that Thursday and Saturday games here coming up for this week. And good luck on your waivers here. We'll talk to you in a couple days here. Getting ready for playoff football, fantasy football, we'll say.
Yeah, won't be far away at all. So yeah, tune in on Thursday for a start set show. Until then, good luck with your waivers and trust your board.